phone you've called is switched off. Please try again later.
So this is 8 minutes to 10 GMT, that is 8 minutes to 11 UK local time on Wednesday, the 10th of August 2022. And we are doing this edition of the KhoodeelaarTV television channel, Baby Angel Geronimo editions, to update on the issues that we have been talking about and to put on the record some of the observations about new events or new developments or new movements in the particular issues that we've been talking about. Now, one of the things that Stokely Carmichael, who adopted the name Kwame Ture and who died at age 57, I think, or in Africa, in Ghana, I think. One of the things that he reportedly commented on was the mayor, the black mayor in one city in the USA. And I think I'll find hopefully, if I can find the entry. Okay, they find the entry on the mayor thing. Well, the entry on Wikipedia called Stokely Carmichael gives his name Kwame Ture, born Stokely Standiford Churchill Carmichael, June 29th, 1941 to November 15th, 1998, was a prominent organizer in the civil rights movement in the United States and the global Pan-African movement. Born in Trinidad, he grew up in the United States from age 11 and became an activist while attending the Bronx High School of Science, that is in New York. He was a key leader in the development of the Black Power movement, etc., etc. Now, Stokely Carmichael and Kwame Ture is very well known in the context. So let's see where it says, does it say the thing about the mayor? We'll find this. Okay. He acknowledged that blacks had won election to the mayor's office in major cities in the United States, but said that as the mayor's, that is plural, the mayor's power had generally diminished over earlier decades, such progress was essentially meaningless. Now, I of course met Kwame Ture, but that's a very, very superficial meeting, and it was made worse by the widespread poisonous, idiotic attitude on the part of some of his self-styled Black Power supporters in the UK. One of them physically pushed me away from Kwame Ture, who I was talking to as a part of an introduction I was making to kind of him, so that he would know who Sandra Compton was, because Sandra Compton, a white woman, who wanted me to help her to shake hands with Kwame Ture. That's all. I had no plan to do that myself, but that is what she wanted. I was quite happy to attend the event, at the Friends Meeting House in Houston, where Kwame Ture spoke. And I also met him at the County Hall, which was the headquarters of the GLC during the same visit. I mean, during the same visit, not on the same day, but during the same visit. Kwame Ture, for all that I gathered, was a pleasant individual, completely open and accessible, but his supporters and the people who surrounded him were the opposite. Of course, that is part of the discussion, examination of the evidence that I'll have to make another time. Anyway, Kwame Ture's point about the black mayors, let's read that entry in the Wikipedia again. He acknowledged that blacks had won election to the mayor's office in many cities, but said that as the mayor's power had generally diminished over earlier decades, such progress was essentially meaningless. Now, this is something that is one of the things that actually distinguishes him from me. That is to say, I would not agree with Kwame Ture about the mayors at any stage. And I most certainly would not agree on the first assumption that it was a question of just getting to a politically power related post. The rest is to be left to the sincerity, the presumed sincerity, honesty, solidarity of the particular post holding or post seeking black person. That is a kind of attitude or outlook about the goodwill of the individual. Now, that is the opposite to what I said about Tower Hamlets, and I say about Tower Hamlets, not only Tower Hamlets, but also about Newham, Hackney, Lewisham, and Croydon, and the rest of the country, including, of course, Liverpool. And it extends to the wider, in terms of numbers of people affected by it, wider post covering Greater London, the London mayor, or the mayor at the expense of London. So that is one of the things that Kwame Ture and I disagreed about. The only thing that I agreed with Kwame Ture about, and would have agreed with him on, is of course the general racism and the general need to oppose racism and its legacy and the rest of it. As for the details and as for the particular context in various areas, and I think that Kwame Ture showed by adopting the name Kwame Ture, two of the African leaders, that he was quite willing. He was quite willing to engage in that kind of behavior, which is to show that he was happy to supplicate himself to his seniors, and in order to, or as a part of the seeking of approval from them of his activities. Now, that happened during the later part of his life. To what extent that was a genuine conviction is obviously something I cannot comment on at this stage, because I have to do the necessary reading about why he adopted the name Kwame Ture. Now, I'm going off the camera now for a minute. I'm trying to stop the door being open from outside so that sudden interference with the broadcast can be prevented, as it happened a few times. Now, I don't think that Kwame Ture, whatever his rationale or logic for adopting the name or doing other things like becoming an advisor to the various people in Africa, I don't think that Kwame Ture really was supported by the necessary intellectual kind of group or forum for individuals in the case for Pan-African unity and the rejection of and the reversal of the empire and the imperialism. So he was passionate. He was passionate without any doubt, and he was excited, etc., etc. But he, like the others in the context of the American, quote, Black Power movement leaders, he somehow missed the intellectual core. I mean, he obviously was very unaware of the extreme, intense racism in Britain. And he most certainly didn't appear to know when, I'm recollecting the speech that he gave at the Friends Meeting House. And the fact that he agreed to come to the GLC, because it was at the time of the GLC being there, and misled by the Lyingstill Livingstone. He did that just as Jackass Jackson. I call Jesse Jackass Jackson because Jackass Jackson has visited Britain many times, and almost on every visit, he has been somehow manipulated into being photographed with or near Ken Lyingstill Livingstone. Now, why would Ken Lyingstill Livingstone appear with Jackass Jackson? Jackass Jackson is not a leader of the British kind of African Asian community. Jackass Jackson is a residual leader. That is to say, his capital, since the murder of Martin Luther King Jr., his career, his credibility, his name has been built on the events after the murder of Martin Luther King. He wasn't anything comparable to Martin Luther King or anything comparable to the various things that he has done in terms of seeking office since Martin Luther King was murdered. And the fact that these American black kind of quote leaders appear quite willing to come to the UK and be seen being photographed with Ken Lyingstill Livingstone shows the craft with which the racist Ken Lyingstill Livingstone has been able to create his image, cultivate his image on the surface as a friend of the black people. Nothing could be further from the truth because, as the liar has proven, he's a racist and he has obstructed Ken Lyingstill Livingstone as well as the trade unions, as well as the right wing of the Labour Party, etc., etc. These have extensively obstructed the creation of anti-racist grassroots movement in the UK, which is why they created these black sections, this black section Bantustan thing, and foisted on the image of the black community these four individuals: Barney Grant, Paul Boateng, Keith Sleaze Vaz, and Diane Darty Abbott. Now, of course, Barney Grant departed the world quite soon after the election that saw him get into the Palace of Westminster. But the remaining three have disgraced themselves in various ways on various occasions. Boateng was bribed by Tony Blair to take up the position of the ambassador, UK ambassador to South Africa. That was kind of Boateng's manipulation, successfully manipulating Tony Blair to reap reap actually the maximum publicity for himself, Botang that is, around the release from prison of Nelson Mandela. But once there, Botang got embroiled in the imperious behavior of Janet Botang, his wife. And the scandal was so unbearable that Botang actually was not able to continue and he returned with Janet Botang. Botang has also a personal experience of quite a challenging situation. His son was charged with crime, etc., etc. And as the father, biological father, Botang had to go to court, which was very much not consistent with the image of the first black GLC member and all the rest of it. And the first, one of the first black members of parliament in Britain. So these are people that have actually disgraced the image and betrayed the actual struggle of the people that remain unheard and unknown and unnamed in the UK. Internationally, these are people similar to what the Kwame Ture or Stokely Carmichael and J. Cass Jackson have done, insofar as they have agreed to visit the UK and be photographed with the likes of Ken Lyingstill Livingstone. What is there of the Black Power movement in the UK? There is nothing. I mean, the sporadic and kind of fragmented pretense at asserting black rights, and in this context, it's black meaning mainly African and Caribbean background blacks, not including the people from Asia. I take the view that in the long run, the word black or something like that should be treated as being inclusive of the experiences of the people of African and Asian backgrounds and origins. Otherwise, there cannot be even the basic understanding of what racism is, and let alone how to beat racism, let alone how to unite the people in the struggle, systematic struggle to beat, expose, undermine, and end racism in the UK. And the USA is even worse. I mean, the fact that the American Democratic Party is very much like the right-wing Labour Party in this country means that the Democratic Party is going to have people like Biden or black-skinned Bidens like Barack Obama. I mean, what a disgrace. Obama's house, well, Obama's and Michelle Obama's house that they built after leaving the White House, apparently is far more grand and expensive looking than the White House itself. Now, why would Obama and Michelle Obama spend so much money, whatever the money they spent in building that huge palace? Why would they do that? Whatever the amount, that money would have fed the people of an entire big country, the hungry people, for a whole year or more. Why would Michelle Obama go along with Barack Obama and build that, or was it her idea to begin with? Michelle Obama's kind of credibility has dropped significantly. And that fact is nothing to do with racists doing it. It's to do with the fact that Michelle Obama was herself not sufficiently against racism and sufficiently active against racism. Barack Obama is a liar. I cannot say that about Michelle Obama. I have not yet seen any evidence that she lied, but Barack Obama lied in a kind of Tony Blair way. Barack Obama confected an image for himself that actually suited his pretensions to become the Democrats' black-skinned nominee, by which I mean he was white inside. He was a coconut, and he remains a coconut, which is why significant numbers of white liberals still could adore him and are fond of him. Obama has not made any contribution to the ending of poverty and hunger and deprivation, and let alone racism. So going back to Kwame Ture and his reference to the fact that the mayors in various black American cities, the black people became mayors. That was okay if the power was there. That shows a fundamental ignorance on the part of Kwame Ture about power. What would Obama say, Kwame Ture say about Luther Rahman? I mean, what did Luther Rahman do for the 6 years that he was in place? From October 2010 until the 23rd of April 2015, what exactly did Luther Rahman do in Tower Hamlets with the quote power that he, Luther Rahman, had by way of being incumbent in that post? No matter how corrupt it was, he was not kicked out of that post until the 23rd of April 2015. So while he was there, Luther Rahman abused that position recklessly and with contempt for any duties to be truthful, any duties to be honest with the people in the borough, either the electors or the electorate, the voters that voted for his regime in the first place in the first election held in October 2010. I mean, if Kwame Ture were in Tower Hamlets, would he have supported Luther? I'm absolutely certain he would have. And that would have shown that Kwame Ture was not anywhere near like the Black Power philosopher, organizer, activist that his profile paints him as. And that applies to all the other black ones Jackass Jackson as well. Even in the language, in the text of the speeches that Martin Luther Jr. delivered, there is this huge yearning summed up in his phrase, I have a dream. It is a dream that he built or fantasized about by voluntarily deciding to deny the nightmares that still haunt black people decades after his murder. Every single day in the USA, there is a capital crime, if not more than one, involving a black person being murdered or hurt. What kind of dream could produce that? And there is no dream at all. Because all the manipulations and maneuvers attaching to the black activists in the USA today, or in the last decade, or in the decades that have passed by since Martin Luther King's murder. Their manipulations and maneuvers are constructed. Their manipulations and maneuvers are constructed on the basis that they would get to political power one way or the other. That is the ultimate aim, which is pathetic. And so therefore, I conclude at this stage the references to Kwame Ture. I have made the point about the fact that he would not have understood Tower Hamlets if he were here. And he does not understand the UK in terms of the context of the black people's rights and the racism and all the rest of it. The fact that the phrase Windrush legacy or Windrush children or Windrush people ever hit the UK kind of population, public imagination, again is nothing to do with the work of the black activists in the UK. It has happened because of Amelia Gentleman. That is an absurd second name, but anyway. Amelia Gentleman wrote a piece in The Guardian. And The Guardian and Private Lie anointed her the kind of investigative reporter of the year in the Paul Foot Award, based on her piece or pieces about the Windrush generation. There is emptiness. There is no morality, there is no spirituality, there is no ethics, there is no transparency, most certainly no universality, no accountability whatsoever. On all those grounds, all those criteria, we actively pursue and actively apply in doing the diagnosis about Fleet Street, doing the diagnosis about the organs of the state, the judiciary, the House of Parliament, the executive. And in our analysis, we find that empire, the imperialists, are very much calling the shots. Look at the paper called the Asian Age. Asian Age was founded by M.J. Akbar. M.J. Akbar now, I mean, after 20 years or so after or 30 years after the foundation of the Asian Age, whatever the actual length of time since it was founded, the Asian Age is carrying very much communal, anti-Muslim, corrupt agenda pieces, while Akbar himself has been serving the agenda of the BJP at various capacities. He claims that he's of Kashmiri background. Well, he's a Kashmiri Muslim, of course. And I don't believe that, given what he has been up to, M.J. Akbar would have supported the independence of Kashmir from the Hindutva Brahminist occupation. And personally, M.J. Akbar is a person that has been accused repeatedly of having raped, sexually harassed, and sexually assaulted many women. That is why he is no longer editor, he is no longer a minister even in the BJP kind of regime. But he is the most prominent of the last 40 years, I think. He is the most prominent good Muslim journalist. And he has not broken any story. He did not break any story in the initial kind of heady days of the Asian age, highlighting any of the wrongs that the Hindutva-based India has been doing against the human rights of the Muslims. And quite apart from M.J. Akbar's failure, there has been no Muslim movement in India against the anti-Muslim agenda narrative. Muslims are not a minority. I mean, it's more than 300 million people, which is half. Well, it's a. How many people live in are recorded as being living in Germany? Let's see how many people live in Germany. So this edition of the Wikipedia about Germany is, of course, a few years. I mean, the main statistics is few years old, but let's see the basic information. So the population is 83 million. It's the 18th in the kind of ranking in the world. 83,190,556. That is the number, so-called precise number given by the Wikipedia, which is obviously bound to be false. But let's say the 83 million or 84 million. That is Germany. So Germany has got, according to that entry, let's say 1/3 of the people of India, the Muslims of India. And if you take France and the United Kingdom, Germany and Sweden, I mean, the Muslim people in numbers in India outnumber all these countries put together. So to call the Muslims in India a minority is an outrage. And the fact that it is allowed, that phrase is allowed to be used, shows the lack of recognition of the human rights of the Muslims that are under threat and violation every day. So, if that is the case, then how is it that somebody like Lutfur Rahman has been allowed to occupy the post or the office of mayor, or somebody like Sadiq Khan has been allowed to occupy the post of mayor in the name of London, because both of them are Muslims. As is Roxana Fiaz in Newham. Just because of these people are not. These people, Lutfur and Sadiq Khan, Roxana Fiaz, are not representative of any real significant opposition to racism, significant opposition to anti-Muslim discrimination, brainwashing, denial, diversion, etc. So as I said about Kwame Ture, in the African background and Caribbean origin Black population in the UK, there is really no opposition to racism, no opposition to imperialism. And Same case with the Muslim population in the UK. There is no real movement against anti-Muslim bias, narrative, agenda, etc., which is why they've got tokens that they can refer to as Muslim this, Muslim that. When the Tory MP Ghani was complaining about being mistreated by Johnson and the rest of the conservative cabal because she was a Muslim, it didn't create anything like the outrage and outcry that would have been. Hello, who is that? Hold on.
You have tea.
Sorry,
You have tea.
I'm busy doing something.
Yeah, do you have tea? A cup of tea?
I don't want tea, I'm busy.
Okay.
Thank you. So the narrative that actually is being promoted as the status quo in the UK in terms of the Muslims warrants examination because of the particular focus of anti-Muslim hatred and incitement that goes on, both within the Conservative Party, within the Labour Party, within the other parties and in Parliament and generally in the various parts of the state and in the media, of course. So again, among the Muslims, there is nothing. Of course, there is kind of a display everywhere, such as in the case of Tower Hamlets, there is a place, there is a building, there is a complex, let's say. There is a building complex where the East London Mosque is situated. And the rest of the complex has got the name London Muslim Centre. Both the East London Mosque in Whitechapel Road and the London Muslim Centre are mentioned very positively by the BBC and the other establishment in the UK. And neither of these centres, in terms of the decision as to the access, who gets the access to these facilities, the decisions are made by a kind of secret cabals that can only be compared with the Freemasons. These Freemasons tactics literally have been copied by the cabals that control the decisions that are made in the name of the London Muslim Centre as to the access to the London Muslim Centre and the facilities, as well as the same regarding the East London Mosque. The 5 times congregation prayers daily take place completely in a plasticky, artificial way. In the prayers, the context is completely absent. So the prayer goers, the majority of the congregation prayer participants that go to the East London Mosque are mentally completely brainwashed. Their brains are totally empty of context and connection. But on the official circuits, whenever the so-called Muslims' opinions are sought by the corrupt anti-Muslim state, they have a compulsory ritualistic place for the Islamic mosque. So it's like the Soviet Union over 70 years. All these Muslims are completely plastic Muslims in terms of the role they play and the roles they are assigned to play. So the only credible Muslims, according to the Guardian and the white left so-called, are the terrorist Muslims. Those who are given the occasional space due to terrorist activities. That's it. The normalcy, the normal life of the UK has no Muslims. So this is the KhoodeelaarTV television channel. Baby Angel Geronimo editions coming to whoever is watching wherever, whether live as it is going out or afterwards. It's coming from the UK. And it is the only program of this kind, this nature, this description to be put on the internet, public domain, anywhere by anybody. This is the significance of it. The other significance that we don't operate based on friends and followers and whatever. This is a standalone publication that goes on the record, and anyone can check this. So the main theme is Baby Angel Geronimo, but the immediate aims of the programs include the End Hunger at Root movement. And the immediate purpose of End Hunger at Root is to end the ignorance about the reason behind people coming to the West from Africa and Asia, seeking asylum, refuge, migration places, whatever. And that actually goes to the Channel 4 news slot that I presented in January 1992. And what I said there. But that was just a culmination of what I would have been saying for years before that. On the previous year, 1991, I had actually presented a demand accompanied by 4 or 5 people that I kind of dragged with me in a minicab. And this particular incident was the main item number 1 on the BBC's main evening news on the 4th of May 1991. And that actually was a game changer in terms of the decision on the part of John Major, who was the Prime Minister of the UK, raising the UK's payment of a support package to the government of Bangladesh in helping the relief of the millions of people that have been affected across the southern coastline of Bangladesh in the cyclone that struck the country on the 30th of April 1991. Now, as one of the things that I organized after that cyclone was a reading of poems held at the Whitechapel Art Gallery. I should talk more about the Whitechapel Art Gallery in detail another time. But this time, I want to say how corrupt the racist morons in control of the Whitechapel Art Gallery are and have been and were. Remember the art gallery, Whitechapel Art Gallery was the stepping stone of Nicholas Serota, who kind of manipulated his way into the National Gallery or National Art Gallery, Tate Gallery as a promotion. If these people are the ones that actually control the decision about arts and intellectual things and whatever, then it is indeed bound to produce the kind of leadership like Boris Johnson personifies. There is no morality, there is no ethics, there is no compassion, there is nothing. And as the former French ambassador to the UK up to 2017, Sylvia Berman, described Boris Johnson in an interview to the Times. Johnson is a congenital liar. Not that he became a liar only afterwards by accident, but he is a congenital liar. That actually shows a very good reading, a very accurate reading of Boris Johnson's life by Sylvie Berman. There is nobody. Well, the English, of course, have got things to say against Napoleon Bonaparte, whom they kind of kept in captivity until he died. The British have got a lot of bad things about Napoleon Bonaparte. And of course, they have got many bad things to say about the last 10 prime ministers or presidents of France. But I don't think there has been any single prime minister or president of France in the last 100 years who can be factually, evidentially, confidently condemned as a congenital liar. And the fact that Johnson is on the record as being regularly condemned as a liar, and he does not stand a chance of being able to factually deny the evidence of his being a congenital liar. He is being called a criminal and so on. And yet Johnson remains somebody that is referred to by some people in the ethnic minority so-called community as their hero. There was a woman from Tower Hamlets who I think has deleted the particular tweet, had a tweet running for a very long time with a picture of her physically holding Boris Johnson's hand or whatever else. And the caption to that picture read, "I'm proud of him," or even prouder of him. So imagine the level of depravity of those who, in that way, think of the depraved Johnson as their hero or their role model. Now, if these people are the ones that are in turn leading the Bangladeshi community's collective image, God help the Bangladeshis in the UK. And we shall continue on those words and those events and those similarities or differences in due course. We have been broadcasting this particular edition for 50 minutes. We shall go on a bit more before we come to the end of this particular one. And the plight of the political, the career plight of one of the two kind of MPs in Tar Hamlets called Afsana Begum is significantly indicative of the lack, the absence of any social political action in solidarity among the victims of the combined racism and discrimination, etc. Although it is called Poplar and Limehouse, the main center of the constituency's people is, of course, the Watney Street Market, where there are more people talking about this forthcoming by-election in Poplar and Limehouse. It will be effectively a by-election because Afsana Begum has not been automatically selected. So she will be undergoing a selection process. Hello?
Water, please.
Sorry?
Water.
Okay, hold on. Oh, if you leave it there, I can't handle it.
You have cup.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
This is an interruption that cannot be helped because this is a supply of water and I shut the door so that no one can just barge in and get into the film. The bankruptcy of social action, the poverty of social action, that is to say, the absence of social action, collective social action in the population, summarized by reference to the Bangladeshis, extends to the rest of the population in Tar Hamlets. In fact, it can be kind of applied to other parts of the UK where the local borough is factually describable as one of the most deprived boroughs. This has been going on for decades. Areas like Tar Hamlets, like Newham, like Hackney, and on the other side of the River Thames, areas like Southwark, Lambeth, and Wandsworth have had significant parts of the population in their borough suffering from low income, worst possible housing, and worst possible life chances, and so on. And there is no recognition in the general commentary retailed by The Guardian, which is still seen by people in the continents of Africa and Asia as being a liberal newspaper. So if Afsana Begum does get back into parliament, and at this stage on the date of this broadcast, it's by no means certain that she will be even a candidate. But if she gets back as elected again, what chances are there that Afsana Begum will deliver something that another candidate, because they were not Bangladeshis, would not deliver? Remember the carefully crafted words attributed to the dishonest, corrupt John MacDonald. He said that he, from Hillingdon in West London, he knew Afsana Begum better than anybody else in the community. He said that, according to him, she was a voice from the grassroots. The reason why Afsana Begum was actually able to be the candidate was really because of the all-women shortlist that was imposed on the constituency in order to stop Abbas Uddin Ali Salan. Because apart from John MacDonald endorsing Afsana Begum during the stage of her kind of candidacy before the first time she got elected, no Bangladeshi kind of base source has actually come out in publicly endorsing Afsana Begum. Why? The answer is her background is completely empty. It's not because people are prejudiced against her. They are not. Afsana Begum is an infant, non-entity. Now, but this is what the Labour Party prefers. And this is what the majority of the, quote, little kingmakers surrounding her, the Bangladeshi ones, they want a dummy, political dummy imposed, so that they hope they can advance their agenda through the dummy. So, when she was an employee, when she was in her 20s, early 20s. She was given a job in the Tower Hamlets Council. And by the time I became aware of her existence, she was in her probably early or mid 20s. How did I become aware of Afsana Begum's existence? Answer: because she sent me about 2 or 3 emails. Out of the blue, I had not known about her existence. I had not sent her anything asking for one email, let alone 2 or 3 emails. But she did send them. And she sent them on behalf of Ohid Ahmed, who is a counselor again, and the shortness of the email and the corrupt skeletal content of the emails gave the whole thing away, because she still doesn't have the information or the ability to understand the information, which was at the center of the communications that I had been having to send to Hamlet's council. So here I was sending extensive and high octane analytical demands to Lutfur Rahman at the time, and I was being targeted for matronizing communication by the writer of that letter or those letters or emails. I can't remember what came first, but the point is that Afsana Begum repeated lies that Ohid Ahmed had perpetrated before. But while wearing the kind of hijab, she has got even a mention of the fact that she is the only Muslim woman wearing a hijab in parliament. While she has been parading herself as a Muslim friendly on several items of constituency work, she has not been really observing So Afsana Begum was not observed at any stage, at any point, articulating anything. So for John MacDonald to say that she represented the voice of the grassroots, it was a criminally conceived, racist, patronizing lie against the people of Tower Hamlets. And Afsana Begum was quite happy to get that endorsement, because she put as a poster on her social media kind of account words that had been spewed by John MacDonald, but actually scripted by somebody else, including of her scan Lyingstill Livingstone. So I'm going off the screen again, and I shall return within 1 minute. If you look at the contest between Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss for the leadership of the Conservative Party, you can see the difference between Afsana Begum and Rishi Sunak. It would be quite a thing to see a similar kind of numerical proportionate level reached by Bangladeshi candidate in the Labour Party's leadership contest, regardless of whether Rishi Sunak fails or wins. The location of Sunak in the Conservative Party is very much higher than the location of the entirety of the Bangladeshi members of parliament in the Labour Party. In fact, the entirety of the Muslim population, Muslim members of parliament in the House of Commons in the name of the Labour Party or with the Labour Party card is smaller in comparison with the impact or influence that Rishi Sunak carries and has been carrying in the Conservative Party. And the reason is very much to do with the kind of mental attitude that hampers the mobilization for rights on an objective basis among the Bangladeshis. Mobilization of the people on an ethical basis. Because Rishi Sunak has not been denounced by his other kind of members of parliament or colleagues with Indian background, Hindu background. Regardless of their disagreement with him, they have not done that. So therefore that has been shielding the collective image of the Indians. And the Indians have got many more things in common with the Pakistanis in the UK than they have with the Bangladeshis in the UK. So the question is, whoever decided that Afsana Begum would be bringing enlightenment to the cause of sending a member of parliament, a Bangladeshi member of parliament, a woman member of parliament. I mean, they did that blindly, and they did that in ignorance, and they did that corruptly. Because, as I said earlier, the more dim the candidate, the better is the opportunity for their manipulators and handlers to adopt their own agenda and career through the gullible individual incumbent, either MP or even as the Prime Minister, because the description of Boris Johnson looking disheveled and not accompanied by any of his officials and nearly falling over because of the influence of alcohol after he spent a weekend or few days or more than one day at the embassy of the, well, not embassy, but the resort in Italy belonging to one of the Russian oligarchs. I mean, it shows that whereas the people of the Bharat hamlets and Newham will often get photographed or get selfies taken of them with they're not people that actually plug any of the Bangladeshi names. The people photographed don't like the Bangladeshi kind of names or tags. So within 51 years of being officially liberated by India from the Punjabis, Bangladesh remains still very much So we have been on this program for about 1 hour and 11 minutes. So we will be coming to an end to this end of this edition at this time. We shall be continuing on the issues in the next editions in due course. The time is just after 11:04 GMT on Wednesday, the 10th of August 2022.